So in 1994, I kind of felt that way about Heath Schuler, and then I felt that way about Patrick Ramsey, and then I felt that way about Jason Campbell, and then I felt that way about RG3, and then I felt that way about Dwayne Haskins. So felt that way a lot over the last 30 years.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this Top Shelf Tuesday edition, Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, what's going on, man?
Star Wars Days was yesterday, but I'm still representing, I'm doing my thing, so having a good time, man.
All right. CKA Academic and Athletic Advisor George Acker. George, how are you doing?
Blessed this morning. How you doing, gentlemen?
And of course, we must have some Commanders news because I dusted off the unofficial benefactor of the Odd Coaches Podcast, and that's a shoot. Brian Bobian. Bobian, what's going on this morning?
Feeling some kind of way about being typecast.
You can be on as often as you want. So on today's show, we're going individual player thoughts. Segment 1, we're going to talk about 3 quarterbacks that's going to be all over the offseason. Segment 2, we'll talk about wide receivers. And then segment 3, we've got a hodgepodge of players. But first, important dates, fans. OTAs start May 13th with Atlanta and May 14th with the Washington Commanders. Mandatory minicamp June 11th through the 13th. And rookie minicamp is May 10th through May 12th. All of that from the NFL. So, fellas, I want to start with Aaron Rodgers. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers should be ready to go when the Jets begin OTA practices May 20th. Last year, he had everybody, including myself, making predictions on the Jets. And then he had his Achilles, but he's going to have no restrictions, according to Coach Robert Saleh. Will, give me your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers as we head into the 2024 season.
The NFL needs all its characters. It's like a play. We have our heroes, we got our anti-heroes, we got our villains, and Aaron Rodgers is somewhere in that cavalcade, and also it would be better to have him not talking on a podcast and talking politically. I'd rather him on the field and throwing a football than talking what he thinks about vaccines and Israel and whatever he thinks. So I'm excited to get the guy back on the field. He's definitely going to change the offense for the Jets. The Jets are going to get a lot better. I mean, how much better? You had Zach Wilson last year, so they're going to be better. And the league always needs stars. It needs names. I know Aaron Rodgers isn't the Aaron Rodgers from years previous, but it's a good name, and it would be a lot more easier to watch if I was watching the Jets versus the Browns, and it wasn't Zach Wilson rather than Aaron Rodgers. So welcome back. I look forward to the fantastic season.
Brian, Aaron Rodgers is back. He should be healthy. What are you thinking?
I mean, like Will said, Jets can't get any worse, so it's only going to help them. I'm a little torn on whether I have more feelings about his political stances and whether his continued being on the field is actually going to increase his platform for that rather than decrease his platform for that. And it hurts when some of the clear misinformation that he's spreading is getting to whoever is paying attention to him because he's in the news. And so I don't know. I hope he goes quietly. I don't think he's gonna.
Okay. George, Aaron Rodgers, what are you thinking? He's going to be in the news all offseason.
Why? I'm with Brian. Why give him that platform?
New York City, baby. Look at him.
And that makes it even worse. But the other side to that is that going to become a detriment to the Jets? I mean, the Jets are hanging on the string as it is. They've gone all in with them, so they have no choice. So it's really about, what's that going to do to the locker room? What's that? I mean, that's a soap opera walking right there. And the other part about it is I still, even though they've done a few things for that offensive line, it's still not going to plug all the leaks in it. So some people going to get a chance to really tee off on them. And if somebody's got opposition with them, they're going to take it out on the field. The field is always the equalizer. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
George, I'm going to stay with you. Caleb Williams. He is the guy that supplanted Spencer Rattler in college. He went to USC, won a Heisman. The Bears hadn't had a good quarterback since Jim McMahon. His goal, according to himself, is immortality, winning multiple championships. Everybody's going to keep an eye on Caleb Williams. What are you thinking, sir?
I'm excited to see him. He's a unique personality. Got that little bit of Dennis Rodman flair to him. Going to do things a little different all the time. But we're going to see if he is as good as all the hype. Personally, he has the ability. To me, he has the ability to do it and be that good. And Chicago's in a good spot because they got a decent line. They have receivers. Now they got a little bit of a running game, so they're going to be good, man. I mean, they got the chance to really be good. So it's the best thing for him. It's a lot of plug and play for him. There's a lot of talent around him, and he just got to come in and make good decisions. He doesn't have to overwhelm anybody this year. He just has to do. He doesn't have to be CJ Stroud. He just has to do, what he needs to do. So, it'll be an improvement in Chicago. So it's a win-win for them, man.
All right. Will Cotton, Caleb Williams, what are you thinking? He's going to be on the news all summer.
Like George said, I mean, the talent speaks for itself. The guy is an amazing athlete. There's no questions there. There are things that and we're nitpicking, obviously, as a podcast. I haven't really heard anybody says that, everything they talk about him is never really about football. Nobody really says like, man, like this kid works his ass off, or man, this kid doesn't leave the field, or man, this kid is a natural leader. These are things that we hope that he can evolve into with the Bears. Those are really things to talk about, and things that are outside of football, painting your nails, just distractions, if you will. But again, like George says, they set them up to win. You have great receivers. You got a running back. Load up on the offensive line. He's a good chance to make a name early. It's just he needs to focus and really what got him here was playing football, not the other stuff, not the cars, not the nail polishes, not the Japan trip. Now rubber hits the road, and all that stuff no longer matters. Clean slate. Now get it done. So I'm excited too, just like George said.
All right. And Brian, Caleb Williams, what are you thinking?
I mean, outside of Brock Purdy, who lucked into a starting gig halfway through his rookie season, I don't think there's any quarterback that's been drafted and expected to take the reins of a team who has a better supporting cast than Caleb Williams does in Chicago, which is both a blessing and a curse for him, because if he comes in and he performs underneath that floor that everybody expects, with that supporting cast, it's going to fall directly to him. It's not going to fall to the coaching staff. It's not going to fall to his receivers who can't get open, or his running back who can't hit holes, or whatever. It's going to be him and him alone. And because of all of the ancillary non-football stuff, you have to wonder whether him not meeting with immediate success and him being blamed for that he's going to be able to handle that mentally. And I don't know, but I don't see that happening. I think he's gonna crush it. But if he doesn't, I think that the flip side is a tough one.
All right. And Brian, we're going to stay with you. Jayden Daniels. He is, according to many media reports, a young man who loves football and would help the Washington Commanders change its franchise forever. They are excited. I got to talk to our Commanders correspondent. How are you feeling about Jayden Daniels? Because he is going to be all over the news this summer.
So in 1994, I kind of felt that way about Heath Schuler. And then I felt that way about Then I felt that way about Patrick Ramsey, and then I felt that way about Jason Campbell, and then I felt that way about RG3, and then I felt that way about Dwayne Haskins. Like, so felt that way a lot over the last 30 years. I hope this time it works. Obviously the talent evaluation and the front office is different this time. The whole plan is different. I love everything that I've read about the kid. I didn't watch a lot of LSU, so I can't really speak to him on the field, but everything that I've read, it seems the makeup is there, the studying is there. I've read the VR stuff, which they're bringing in specifically for him. And he points to that as a way that he improved over the course of the last season. So I love the fact that he's finding novel ways to get better. Rather than just riding out the fact that he was going to be the number 2 pick and all of that. I can't hate on the pick. If they think they got a generational talent at number 2, you got to take it. Only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have ever been the number 2 pick and started in a Super Bowl, and none of them have won it. Which is not to say that can't happen, obviously, but the idea that, if you don't take a quarterback number 2, you're going to forever be, castigated to the junk heap of history is not accurate. But if they really believe that this is the guy, then I have no reason to question them yet, right? So I'm excited about it, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
George, close out segment 1. What are your thoughts on Brian's thoughts on Jaden Daniels? Because you've seen the kid play.
Well, number one, Brian brought up Heath Schuler, so I got to give him kudos for that one right there.
That's a dust off right there.
Not a new fan, right?
Yeah,
not a new
boy.
fan.
Hey, Heath was nice in college. I have seen everything that they have said about him. You saw in college. Okay, he can erase your mistakes. He can make bad plays good ones. He's smart. All the accolades they said, and I liked him. My concern comes in, and Keith, you and I have talked about this. My concern comes in with him is with his size, because his line was not great at LSU. His line is not great with the Commanders. And the one game that he played where he faced a NFL a prototype line against Alabama, he got carted out. So this is where my only concern with him came in. He's not as big, he's not as rugged as a Jalen Daniels, a Drake May, or whatever. But talent wise, it's there. Can he get it done? Yes. He catch a couple breaks and not catch that big hit or a couple big hits. I think the Commanders are going to be 100 times better than they were. And that's hard for me to say, as you know. He is what everybody says he is. And I've seen it happen. The problem is going to be that line. And that's where I felt that the Commanders should have spent a whole lot of money, because he can't take that pounding. So if you have a day of you have a day of about 5 sacks, or he gets out in the open where he breaks contain and takes off and gets caught, it's not going to be a good one. So,
all right. So with that, in segment 2, we're going to go to my new favorite position. Shout out to Point 5, wide receiver. We're going to talk all things wide receivers. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes, as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@cksaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Out Coaches Podcast in segment 2. We're going to do players to watch in terms of wide receivers. Will, I'm going to start with you. Odell Beckham Jr. has been all over the news. The Dolphins agreed to terms with him. It's a one-year deal worth $3 million with incentives. It could be up to $8 million. Will, this guy's Lex Luger, man. He had a good year in Florida, came to the Horsemen, hung out with Flair and those guys. And then after that, he just kind of hung out with Lex Luger, who did good at the beginning of his career, but the rest of his career was what? So tell me why we are still talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Will, help me out.
I'm gonna be one of those guys. This dude's whole career was that one catch against Dallas where he caught back like that. That's his whole career. He has not been relevant since 2016. Think about that. Not even pandemic. Previously, the pandemic, he was not good anymore. Now, don't get me wrong. He does have certain aspects that you can't coach or you can't just grab from anybody. The guy is an amazing athlete. He has amazing footwork, but he's not durable. I mean, any bad step, any wrong move, and he tears his hamstring, it's all like soft tissue. So, that's the stuff could linger. To be honest with you, I was kind of upset that Miami kind of went that way. I thought they could either went through the draft or they could even found a different wide receiver in the free agency. I think it's gonna be the same thing. They'll bring him in off a name, and again, he'll be in Miami. So I don't know how much focus he's going to have in Miami. That's a hard place to play, especially when you're making a lot of money, especially when you're one of those guys out in the scene. So, I'm glad he's in the league. I'm glad he has a job, but I don't know if that's going to make Miami better. So that's my
Brian, this guy has failed to eclipse 50 catches or 600 receiving yards in each of the past 3 seasons. Although he has been hampered by injury. Am I being too hard on him? Tell me, Brian, you bring levity to the show.
There's a point, like Will pointed out, his relevance has waned. And he's relevant because he keeps himself relevant by the parade through different teams as they're through the playoff push and all of that and whatever. And because of the name recognition and the national media gets on that tour, and he keeps his name in the news. But at some point, like, it's got to show on the field, and it hasn't. And if you can't stay on the field, and when you're on the field, you're not an impact player, you're not an impact player, no matter how much you want to crow about it. So I don't really think that it provides much to Miami. I think that he's and when he's not getting thrown the ball because he's not getting open, and Tua's feeding the other monsters on that offense, we'll see how long his contentment lasts.
George, talk to me, man. Again, am I being too hard?
Yes and no. One of the smartest career moves he could have made. He goes in where he's not the feature. He goes in with 2 wide receivers that have speed and talent-wise eclipse everything else. So he'll pick up his, if you put it down under 3 to 5 tuts, and he'll get a couple 100 yards, and that's all he needs to do, and he can say he had a successful year. I mean, after 2 major injuries, you're not going to, and he's on the backside of his career, you're not going to get much else. He's not trophy hunting. He's got his trophy. He was poised to have a huge year in or a huge impact on the game in LA, and got hurt again. So, and his relevance is to stay relevant right now. That's his job. and that's what he's doing. And he's moving from Kardashian to wherever else he can, and he stays in the camera. So, not much is going to be expected of him. It's not like it's going to change or have that big of an impact or change the Dolphins and offense that much. So it was a great business move for him.
And Jordan's point, he's not a bad teammate. Like, he's not a jerk. Guys like him. It's just his time, man. He's just the old dog, and he's put him out the shed.
All right. Will, I'm going to stay with you because you're a big fan of the Buffalo Bills management. The Bills continue to add to their wide receiver room after the draft. They signed Chase Claypool to a 1-year deal. He's 6'4", 238 pounds. He brings depth. And again, Stephon Diggs is gone. He's 25. He's been with 3 teams over the last 2 years. What do you think about that move?
I got one thing to say. When I heard last year that he wasn't, trying hard, or people could get hurt because he wasn't playing hard and things like that, right then, that was it for me. That was it for me. Number one, you're going to get people hurt. It's a fast, violent game, and you're not taking it serious. You're going to get somebody hurt, and it couldn't be somebody else, and that's not fair. The dude is always inactive. The dude is always a problem. Obviously, the NFL loves his metrics, 6'4", 238. The guy can run, but I don't think he wants it. I don't think he doesn't have the heart. And to me, that's the biggest thing you need to stay in the NFL, to, wake up and go run your routes and lift. And sometimes you don't have, great games, but he's not the answer. And that's unfortunate, because that is the Buffalo Bill moniker, just being a bad organization disguising as a good one. If you look at an organization and you say, oh man, this guy picked up a receiver, that guy is 6'4", 240, the guy can run a 4.4, you're like, man, this organization knows what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And we'll find out this season. This guy is terrible.
All right, Brian, we're going to close the segment with you. Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs declined to exercise his 5th-year option. He was traded to the Chiefs last year. Andy Reid says he's going to be in the plans for the Chiefs this year, but the Chiefs are trying to do something that has never been done, and that's win 3. Does this move help or hurt? What do you think, sir?
The Giants didn't want Kadarius Toney, so that should probably tell you like where he stands in the wide receiver room. He's not really much of anything and that's from a Chiefs receiving core that is not really all that great. They drafted a receiver in the first round this year. A lot of folks thought that was a stretch, that Worthy was a stretch at that spot. But I think he's going to remain irrelevant until he can show that he's got any of that burst. And he really, if you're not rising to the top of that Chiefs receiving room, you're not great shakes. So I think they made a fine decision.
All right. So when we get back in segment 3, got a special guest coming in, and we're going to revisit the Michael Penix situation on a higher level. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 3. We got the heavy hitters here to break down the Falcons move of Michael Penix Jr. Again, the Atlanta Falcons caused all types of havoc with the draft by using the number 8 pick on Michael Penix Jr. Either you liked the deal or you didn't like the deal. There will be no Kirk Cousins slander on our show because that guy has stolen a lot of money. But at the end of the day, man, he's coming off an injury. He hasn't won a darn thing. And why not do it? So, Brian, when you saw that the Falcons used the number 8 pick on their quarterback of the future after paying over $100 million for the quarterback of today, what did you think, sir?
I thought it was a nice bookend to the end of Kirk Cousins' career. Because it mirrored the situation as he entered the league when he has a 4th-round draft pick, drafted in the same draft as Robert Griffin, and now we've got at the end of his career he gets theoretically his heir apparent drafted in the 1st round of the last draft that will be impactful to his career. So I thought it was a nice bookend. I don't know what the Falcons are doing. They could have gotten Michael Penix later. I don't think he was gonna go that much faster. Though the run on quarterbacks was ridiculous. So who knows? But I thought it was poetic justice.
Okay, Robert, you are an administrator. This came across your desk, and this is the move they made. What is your analysis on the Falcons drafting their quarterback of the future when they paid for their quarterback of today?
Seems like the general manager is working on sharpening his resume writing skills. I mean, I didn't, full disclosure, I did not pay. I paid very little attention to the draft, but you couldn't miss this because it was everywhere. What are the Falcons doing? And it seems like it's one of those situations where you have your board of best players available and you fall in love with one and you talk yourself into it. And it really seems like that's what they did. And if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm ticked, but I'm ticked because I didn't get any help, not because the guy is taking my job, because the money is guaranteed.
Get the bag, baby. Get the bag. George, had some time to marinate on it. We've had some time to talk to Brian and Robert. Now, did they change your mind, or is it still a bad move?
Still a bad move. I mean, all I can think of is that the Falcons truly believe that they weren't going to have a chance to draft him later on. I think they thought that the Raiders were going to come in and get him or something, and something else, something was going to happen, or they couldn't find a quarterback. And later on in a draft down the road or something, something stumped that room because you got receivers, you got the running back, you got it. Then you pull Kirk Cousins, and I know now the one thing we don't know is what that medical report looks like for Cousins coming off of that huge injury. And we'll all be sitting up here in a couple months being like, hey, the Falcons were actually smart. So that might, that's the only thing. But, yeah, that's all I can think of, man. It's really all I can think of. Either they got spooked or there's something we don't know. So
I got to say, though, if the Falcons paid him $100 million guaranteed, they had access to those medicals at that point too, and if
right,
$100 million guaranteed, and if he doesn't play, well, good grades.
Yeah,
it's even worse.
Sharpen up that resume. All right, so to close out, Will, back to Buffalo, Keon Coleman. He had an introductory press conference that was quite entertaining, but I don't pay you to be entertaining. Can the kid play, first of all, Will? And second of all, what are you thinking about Buffalo, replacement of Stephon Diggs with everything going on?
I think he's a good vibe. I think the energy is good. I think, he's not going to overshadow the ego that, fragile Josh Allen, because personally, in this area, we know a lot of the athletes who make it to the NFL, and we have kind of personal relationships. So you hear about stories like that. And Diggs is a very strong person, personality, fire to him, very aggressive. And I don't know if that's something Josh Allen could connect with, if he wants that fire. I think Keon Coleman probably melds a little better in terms of relationships. The guy plays golf. Josh Allen plays golf. Hey, guys can go play golf and build their relationship. On top of he's in dog. This kid can play, man. It was funny because he was talking about the coat that he said, what is it, Macy's or something like that. I said, brother, as soon as you get that check, it's gonna say Montclair on it. It's gonna say Canada Goose. That Target stuff out the day. Macy's out the way. As soon as you get that real money, and you're gonna need it in Buffalo. So they don't have no Macy jackets in there. You gotta get a coat. But he's good. He's a good feel. Like he's a good energy, man. It's a good thing that you want to. And the Buffalo Bills have not had a great offseason. Let's be real. I mean, this kid was a great spark for him. That's something good for them. Good for him, man. I'm happy for him. Hopefully he can stay with Buffalo and they can do their thing. But he's a great personality, man. I hope the best for the kid. But he ain't gonna be wearing Macy's much longer. He's gonna be wearing Montclair soon. Don't worry.
Hey, Keith, he is a dog on the field.
He can play.
Yeah. That the wide receiver in the draft, in this year's draft, the wide receiver class was deep, man. I mean, was real deep. So, and he's a dog, man.
All right. So to close out, the 2024 NFL schedules will drop at some point this week. Once the schedules have dropped, we're going to get you ready for this coming season. Looking forward to our division preview episodes where we bring in all of the fans in the CKA family. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.